Hello, my name is Michael O'Keefe, aka The Movie List. If you enjoy this interview and want to hear more top-notch film industry conversations, please press the thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, and hit the bell to stay in the know. Hello, Patrick Forbes. Please tell my audience what your documentary, The Phantom, examines.
What's it about? It's about a terrible night in Corpus Christi in February 1983, where a young gas station clerk got murdered. And on that night, a young guy was found half a block away, hiding under a truck. And the cops pulled him out and thought, this is the guy who'd done it. Because they discovered not only was he drunk and out of his mind, it looked like, but he had a record as long as your arm. So they got the guy. But come the trial, he says, look, another guy did it. Another guy called Carlos. That was his name as well. And the prosecution to write say, hey, look, the evidence against this man is so overwhelming. And this Carlos that this guy is talking about is a phantom. Well, guess what? It wasn't. He was for real. There was another guy. And it looks like to me that this Carlos actually did it. So that's my story, basically.
Yep. And we look at death row. We look at the actual execution bed. I found that shot really disturbing when you walk into the room, because it's almost like you're about to get executed, or like this is what it's going to look like if you ever do get executed. So I would love to get your thoughts about the death penalty. Are you personally against it?
Yeah, I am. But it was really important that, as it were, my views, and particularly, as you can tell from my accent, I'm an English guy. So to a certain extent, I'm outside this debate. And I think it's really important in any movie, particularly any movie as vexed as this, that you don't come at it going, hey, I'm going to prove right or wrong from the get-go. I mean, one of the principles I set was, we're going to talk to absolutely everybody on this, because everything that's been written about it, or the films that have been made about it, the television has always taken one point of view. And I thought that's really unfair. And it's time to try and set the record straight. And that was, in essence, my sort of pitch to everybody in Corpus Christi. And to their credit, they went, you know what? This is what we've been waiting for, whether we're a court, a defense attorney, somebody, part of the victim's family, part of the innocent, the executed man's family. They just wanted to tell their story. It was like, I always say it's almost like the moment in a film where the door creaks open and everything just sort of poured out. And that's what it felt like going to Corpus. It was like, yes, we're going to do it. Okay, everybody. And they did. And I think the truth has finally come out. And it's pretty horrendous, but it's also terribly understandable. It's about, people who make mistakes, who think one thing and then, oh, maybe the truth's another thing. And the tragedy is that if you execute somebody having made a mistake, you can't go back and change it.
So at the time, George Bush was the governor of Texas. And how many executions were under him? Do you remember?
No, I don't. I would like to say, but it's a high number, because he was keen on it. Let's put it like that.
So,
and Texas is still to this day a place that executes a disproportionate number of its prisoners. If you look at the records across the country, it's a few states that are doing this and doing it large in Texas's case.
Yeah. And so has he ever publicly expressed remorse about this particular case in your film? No?
Never. No. And it's the family have on occasion tried to try and get an official pardon, or somebody to say, a governor say, well, look, we could have got this wrong. But in Texas's defense, the reason I say that the truth may only just have come out in my movie, and almost by accident, is one of the other things that I wanted to do is, you probably, you watch a lot of documentaries, so do a lot of people. A lot of them are like watching radio with the lights on. There is the same person in the same position at the end of a story as there is at the beginning. And you're thinking, hang on, they're supposed to have gone through, a life, but they still seem to be stuck in one position. And if you've ever been involved in filming them, all too often there are sort of lights in people's eyes, and it's really uncomfortable for anyone to be interviewed, and it's a very alien experience. So I thought, hey, revolution. Let's film people handheld without lights in the place rather, where something happened. And let's do it like that with everybody. So if you are a person who was there on the night of the murder, let's film you at the murder scene. Let's film you, as you said, in the house next to death row where your brother is about to be executed, because that way you're going to get the truth. So it all sounds very high and mighty, but what happened one night was we're filming the guy who arrested Carlos de Luna on that night in February, and it was a wet night, it was cold, and this lovely cop is walking towards a truck under which not Carlos, but in fact me, is hidden, going, "Tell me what you said, Tom." And he says, "Hey, I arrest you, don't move." And as he does so, I can sort of see a commotion out of the corner of my eye, and one of my producers being tapped on the shoulder by one of the neighbors, who says, "I was there that night. I saw both men run." And it's like, what? And he comes running across to me and says, "Look, this guy says he saw both men." And the importance of that is, De Luna's defense was that he wasn't the only person at the gas station, that there was another person, this person, Hernandez, and nobody believed him, hence the Phantom. And so this is the first time you've got eyewitness evidence that there was somebody, and for some crazy reason, the cops in their house-to-house inquiries did not talk to this guy. And he's a lovely bloke called Raymond Nunez, is a hospital porter. And I think to myself, I hope he's not, just turning up and telling us something to make him feel big. So we check him out, and he's completely clean, and he's got no record, no nothing. He's a good guy. And then the final detail is he said, "Well, I was inside, I was watching Jaws." My producer goes, "Right, let's get the TV schedules from that night." Sure enough, ABC were showing Jaws. So I thought, whoa, but it didn't sort of end there. Another person, further down the line, the news of this has sort of spread down the street. And another person is grabbing another one of my team and going, "You have got to talk to Bruno." And I was going, who the hell's Bruno? Oh, hang on. Bruno was the guy who was the junior policeman collating all the radio traffic at the scene. He was ringing in with what the witnesses were saying. He was then relaying it to the announcer, who was then relaying it out, and he was telling the announcer what was right and what was wrong. And as the announcer was reading out the descriptions note that people had rung in, Bruno began to think, we're not talking about one person, we're talking about two. And he had never spoken of his doubts, but his father was there and says, "You've got to talk to him." So sure enough, 6 days later, I drive up to San Antonio. Bruno Mejia, who is by now a leading software executive, says, "Nobody's ever talked to me, but this is the story, and this is it. There were two men there that night." And so weirdly, my rather pompous, "Hey, let's change everything" policy turned into the thing that may have solved the case once and for all, and proved that Carlos de Luna was indeed innocent, and Carlos Hernandez was there and did it.
Unbelievable. I like how the story unfolds, and what you said earlier about documentaries being like radio with light. I thought that was really interesting. I actually have a question about how the story unfolds, and I was wondering, what do you think the similarities are between documentaries and fiction filmmaking?
Oh, it's incredible. Well, fundamentally they're the same. You want somebody to watch it from the beginning to the end and be really interested. But, and I'm guilty of this as well, if you watch some of my earlier stuff, you could be bored rigid. It's not true. You'd be fascinated. But but the filmmaking is really limited. It's just interview, beautiful shot, interview, beautiful shot. You think, hang on, real life isn't like this, and real life moves faster. And so we should really think about what we're doing. And so I thought, and I come from observational documentary where you're filming stuff as it's happening right there in front of you. So in that sense, it's like a drama, like a narrative film. And I thought we've got to find a way of making this film, particularly because it's so dramatic as, I don't know, as Chinatown, as any movie you want to care to mention. You want to be taken through from place to place to place to place to find the sort of horrible truth at the end. And that's why I settled on the way I did. And it also not only influenced how we shot it, but how we cut it. Because I thought, you know, I don't know if have you ever been on a jury or anything like that? No. Well, if you ever have, it's a really weird experience, because you're sitting there thinking, hang on, I've heard one argument, I think it's like this. Then you hear another argument, you think, oh, maybe it's like that. So I wanted to show that experience of actually how people in reality get at the truth. It's not like a light bulb moment, E equals MC squared. It's like you just sort of piece it together, you know, oh, hang on, I think it's like this. This guy's guilty. Oh, maybe he's not. Maybe, oh my God, the other guy did exist. Oh, well, did he do it? Oh, I think he did. And so I wanted it to be like that. I wanted it to be, terrible word, a journey that carries you through. Anyway, you can tell me whether it did.
I think so. Absolutely. I think so. I like seeing things unfold, like you said, and not be so static, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is what you can run into, which is talking heads.
Absolutely. And, you know, you can get great movies with talking heads, because some people are so fantastic. You know, one of my favorite, you know, the Rumble in the Jungle movie is brilliant. And that is just, you know, Muhammad Ali and 3 old white guys. And it's the most compelling, talking you through an incredible boxing match. And it's fantastic. But that's really, really pure. And, or Kevin McDonald's incredible Touching the Void, where again, it's just 2 guys talking you through an amazing moment on a mountain. And there I think it works, because it's so limited and it's deliberate, but everything else is just a bit lazy. And that's what I wanted to change and just do something else. And the other thing that hangs over it, actually, which I was reminded in another interview, I hate to say this, I've been talking to other people, was A Thin Blue Line, which sort of sets the standard, and you know, is in Texas. And I thought their static frame is deliberate. You know, they want you to do it like that. So I thought, well, if we do anything that's like that, it's going to look like some sort of terrible low budget knockoff of something brilliant. We've got to reinterpret. We've got to move things on. So that's why we did it the way we did.
What are your all-time favorite documentaries?
Whoa, well, you just heard 2 of them.
Yeah.
All-time favorite documentaries. Cool. It's terrible. You should never ask a documentary maker that.
You've seen a lot.
They'll always lie. In fact, the reason is, you know, we're all bitter and twisted and we hate everybody else's work. I think, well, Touching the Void is extraordinary and sort of confirmed me. Thin Blue Line got me interested. There's a very obscure British series that I watched when I was 6 or 7 called Murder Squad. And that was the first moment I saw a documentary that could be as exciting as a feature film. And because then my big favorite was, you know, The Jungle King or something like that. Oh, cool.
Do you like In the Year of the Pig?
In the Year of the Witch? I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's really cool. It's about the war in Vietnam, but it was made in the 60s. It's in black and white. It's got this really ambient, weird score by John Cage. And I don't know. It wasn't like, it was like an experimental documentary. It's talking heads, but there are little transitional pieces that are very experimental, and it's one of my favorites.
Oh man, well, you send me the link, Matt, or I'll have that. I'm absolutely up for anything that isn't standard. I really think it's important, because it was so. I was talking to some documentary maker about why he'd done what he'd done. He said, well, everyone else is doing it. I mean, like 2 years ago in Britain, and I think to a certain extent in the States, there were this incredibly cumbersome piece of glass that basically meant you could stand beside your interviewee and it would appear as though they were talking directly to you. And you just think, what? So, let's not do this. Let's take the bits of glass away. Let's take the lights away. You don't need to do it. Modern cameras are so extraordinary, and modern DOPs are fantastic. And the guy who shot my movie shot 3 Identical Strangers and did a brilliant job there, and did a brilliant job with me. And they're, they're every bit as good as in fact, in some respects, better than the top narrative DOPs, and we should celebrate it and do it. And you've only got one life, so you might as well try.
Absolutely. Well, I really enjoyed The Phantom. And Patrick, I want to thank you for your time. Is there anything else you would like to add about The Phantom that we have not touched upon?
Well, yes. I mean, one of the terrible things documentaries makers say is they go all serious and they say, hey, there's a real message in my movie. But actually, in this instance, it's true. There is a message in my movie. And 10 major civil liberties groups have got together a big deal petition calling on the president to commute the sentences of everybody who is on federal death row. And it's running off the back of the movie. We're not allied. It was their decision, not mine, but I'm thrilled that they're doing it. So I would urge everyone to sign that petition, and let's see if, for once, a documentary can spark some real change.
Very exciting stuff. And thank you for your time.
Hey, my pleasure. That was great.